Welcome back to Newsmaker Live. I'm Clinton Reynolds and we're discussing men's issues. We'll be taking your calls as we continue with our discussion of International Men's Day coming up this Monday, the 19th of November. And the major march, the Lucian Men's March, is on Sunday from the Vigi Multipurpose Complex to Mindo Phillip Park. And I was just searching for the information on the Tapio Hospital program, and I just got it. So the Tapio Hospital, they're inviting all men to come out for their first, what they're calling the first annual International Men's Day event, helping men and boys live longer. That's the theme, healthier lives. So their program is on the Monday, and they're trying to promote positive role models to celebrate men's positive contributions to society. And part of it is prostate cancer testing will be offered for $40 for men over 40. So a significant discount on the price for a prostate exam if you are over 40 years of age. It is recommended that you take that test when you turn 40. So those of you who have not and who have hit that magical figure in age, that would be a good opportunity to visit Tapio Hospital between 9 and 3 o'clock on Monday. They're also doing health screenings, free blood pressure, blood sugar, HIV testing, and healthy lifestyle counseling on eating, alcohol use, and sexual behavior. Now, I want to pause there. I want to pause there on the sexual behavior. You know, a lot of our men in our Caribbean society, and I don't want to go way back to our historical context where, you know, we were bred pretty much as black men coming in from Africa so that we could sustain the labor force for the plantations, for our colonial masters. But part of this has not left us. You know, we talk about the negligence, we talk about the absenteeism of men in the families or in the home. How can we reverse this? I mean, slavery ended in the 19th century. Well, plantation slavery ended in the 19th century. But then we still seem to be enslaved in our society today.
Well, a lot has to be done with advocacy. We have to keep pushing the messages that men need to hear. You know, we know our societal background, we know our historical background, but how has it affected us? How has it benefited us? We need to ask ourselves these questions. How has it troubled us negatively and positively? You know, and then we reevaluate those things. And if when we reevaluate, we realize that there are things that can be improved on, then that message needs to be made loud and clear.
You want to add to it?
Have a call? Have a call?
We have a call?
Yeah.
Good evening, caller. Please go ahead. Okay, I'm not hearing. Is that call on the line? Okay, we must have lost that call. You could go ahead.
Ron, you're saying?
Yeah, there's someone on the line.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, like Al said, you know, even if we have failed in the past, or we've come from a history of neglect, you know, as a father to a kid. I mean, you know, we live in a postmodern world, and we are privy to a lot of information, you know, and we are seeing every day, you know, what an ideal situation of a father should be, you know, and not being an absentee father, or sometimes both parents are leaving the kids and going over to Canada or going over to Martinique and so on to work. You know, it's just pretty time for, you know, men, especially men, to step up and take the responsibility. I mean, what more joy is there when you have, you know, a kid and you're raising a child? You know, it's a very wonderful experience, you know, and a lot of men are actually missing out on that kind of experience when they leave their kids and they neglect their kids, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I want to discuss at Tapio when I make the presentation there. But before I do that, we have a call. Good evening, caller. Thank you for holding. Please go ahead.
Even to your guest.
Good evening, sir.
I must say it's quite an interesting program tonight. Really, Clinton, we need to know that right now the youth really need, especially the young men, they really need some form of direction, because back in the days when we had the club structure, those days, the young people who could have go to the clubs, and the those older than them would have direct them in a better format. But right now we have no organized clubs anymore. People you will hear, or maybe just a football team or a cricket team, but really the club structure would have been different, where they would have, I remember back in the days, you would have games night, and you would have people come into the clubs and give you lectures and whatnot. And these are some of the areas that we need to bring back into society, that we'll have a better, for us to have a better young men. Because when you watch it nowadays, the young men are just lingering by the street sides, and they don't have any real sense of purpose. So we need to reorganize the club structure. And one other thing is that maybe through the media, maybe the gender relation department need to maybe have some serious programs on the TV to educate the young people, because young people need the young men need some form of direction, some things to show them, some people that are really good examples in society, and speak to them on different issues, and how to maybe save, how to conduct themselves in when conflicts come and whatnot. But for now, it's just like nothing is going on, and they just say the best thing to do is to sit by the roadside. Parents need to do the roles, play the roles too. Maybe parents need to teach them like before. I remember back in the days, my mom taught me to do everything pertaining to a house, wash and clean and do everything. That was back in the days. But nowadays, young people don't want to do anything, and we need to teach the young people the right things. And maybe if those who are in authority can redirect, maybe through the media, through the radio, through the television, and whatever we can get. And even someone was saying maybe we need to have a crisis center for men, and maybe in that center, not only when men are in trouble, but in that center we'll be able to redirect and be able to guide men in accordance with the behavior, and have different people to redirect young people, because especially the young men. Because remember back in the days, I remember even in the Bible time, that when Jesus Christ was still a baby, that Herod sent to get the male seed, and it was the firstborn, the male seed, because the devil is really after the men. If we watch, the men are always those that are misbehaving the most. So we need to get some form of redirection.
Great. Thank you very much for your contribution. Very, very interesting and profound contribution from that caller indeed, and hitting the nail on the head in many of the issues that he raised. When you look at men's issues, for me, there are two very important aspects, and I will discuss it after we take this call. Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Hello. I was just listening to the program. Let me just you need this. You make some very interesting points there. Fatherhood is one of the key things for the success of St. Lucia. And unfortunately, as you quite rightly say, marriage and family life is completely missing. And I would suggest the best way in which to correct this is that we have to get our young men at school to teach them marriage and family life. Because young boys primarily need a role model. And the role model often comes from their fathers. But because we have the vast majority of young people now where they're living in father absent homes, they don't have that role model. And what we really need to do is try and put that in place. If we can put that in place, then inevitably they will then follow that kind of example. St. Lucia, I don't believe, will be socially, our crime rates, the social depravity that we have is primarily because of the absent fathers. So certainly in other countries, certainly in many of the European countries, that problem has been solved. They find when a father and a mother, married father and mother in the home, children do exceptionally well. They do. In fact, it is the most beneficial thing. It's which reduces things like crime, graffiti, drug taking, delinquency, all of these things.
And that's how the Bible designed it to be, a mother, father, and children as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is the number one factor in which we can have a successful society. And we have a high crime rate here, and the knee-jerk reaction is to get more police on the streets and try and stop this. Actually, if you can get more two-parent families where you have the mother and father, natural mother and father, married mother and father in the home, you would find that crime would drop.
Did we lose that caller? Oh, I'm sorry, we lost that caller. If you can call back, we apologize for that. Want to comment on the last two callers? Yeah.
Well, the first caller made a lot of valiant points, and I think that is the awareness that we want to create. And come Sunday, we want to have callers, persons like the first caller, who have ideas to come out and be a part of it and share what they can and get involved as they can with clubs, as he mentioned. The second caller, it's interesting because you're always going to have the secular argument. You mentioned that that's how the Bible intended it. You're always going to have the secular argument, and you're going to have persons who don't have the choice but to raise their children as a single parent. And I always say to that scenario, whether you're looking at it from a religious or secular standpoint, it takes both man and woman to create the child. So then the raising of that child can't just be one, you know. I mean, of course, you have situations you can't help it out of necessity, death or otherwise desertion, But if it takes two to create the child, then it ought to take two to raise that child.
Yeah, the ideal, of course, as I was alluding to, is for a mother, father, as the last caller was saying, natural mother and father, and the children in the household. Good evening, caller.
Hi, good evening, Clinton. Good evening, Al. Good evening to next guest.
Ron Peter.
I don't know what you're talking about, what the topic is, but I just listened to the last caller, and I listened to Clinton. Clinton, from Genesis, we read that is why a man must leave his father and cling to his wife. But in the same book of Genesis, we were told that Abraham had a child, and then Abraham put away the child and his mother. So who was the father to the child? The Egyptian woman. All through Genesis, we have those guys, Jacob, who had 4 wives and 12 sons and many daughters. Right? The children were not all living with Jacob. Is that from Genesis 3 we know that the man has to work hard to provide. He must be the provider. We're making life as if you don't have a father and a mother, right? The nuclear family. The nuclear family, Clinton, is a modern invention. It's not 400 years old. The whole Old Testament is about community life. It was the tribe. People look after each other. Guys live in tents, and they had so many over there, so many over there. But your children were provided for. That was the main thing. We're making as if, because people are not provided, your father not live with you, right? That everybody, I heard the last one said, in Europe. You know what had just happened in America? We're watching it on CNN, etc. David Petraeus, supposed to be a highly, a general, right? With a concubine. Big fuss. We know about Prince Charles. Almost all English people know that Prince Charles never gave up Camilla. That is life. In the Bible, there are few men who had only one wife. The majority of the men of God, right? David, Samson, Abraham, Solomon had more than one wife. They had children. Men are supposed to provide for their families, right? And many of us, many persons in society, lawyers, doctors, etc., they were raised in communities and they are sociable persons. That excuse that because that your father was not in the house with your mother, the nuclear family, right? We have to give up everything for the nuclear family. I resent it. We must love our neighbors ourselves. We must love our nephews, our cousins, etc. When we do that, we produce in a better society. Those persons who are telling people, once you get married, forget everybody else, but it's your family. How could my child, my offspring, look upon me as a person with love when all I am doing is to provide for my family and I forget my brothers and sisters, their uncles and nephews? They themselves grew up without love. I give them everything. That's not love. The Old Testament is a book on communities, on families. When Hillary Clinton said a community was a family, Africans understood it, Clinton. Your father understood it. Everybody, your father is my age, understood. So the community that raised us.
So
when a fellow from Swazel, I see all there, went to college, you went to college for the community. Everybody said, meet me, say, Ali College, right? So the community, what that nuclear family is, everybody is for me and my children, have created havoc. It has bred selfishness and greed. Because everybody's for themselves after we start. When we're dealing with community, right? Therefore, when I saw Clinton, something wrong with you, Clinton, I say, to you, boy, go to school. Because the community, and that is what the Old Testament about. Not this thing, what you said, Clinton, a man and his wife and his children. No.
I don't think you took me in context, but I appreciate. I don't think you took me in context, but I appreciate the contribution. You know, I allowed you to, but I don't think you took me in context because
I just came in,
yeah,
and I barely heard your last caller.
Right.
And you see, the point for the nuclear family, the extended family, which exists in Africa, in Asia, has always been. It was there before the nuclear family. Murdoch, read about Murdoch. Murdoch said that the nuclear family, a man and his wife and his kids in a house by themselves. That was an invention of the Industrial Revolution. All you go to Europe, they have the gypsies. They live in community, right? People have children, yes, they marry, but it's a community. They always and they love each other.
Well,
right? They love their cousins. They know each other. They have their marks, etc.
Let me have them respond. Thank you very much for that contribution. Let me just clarify. I think I was taken out of context because what we were talking about is, you know, the responsibility. Yes, of course, community is important. However, you cannot, if you have a child, you cannot expect that the community alone will raise your child. Let's take this call quickly and then we'll go to break and then we'll be back because I know it's getting hot. Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Yes, hello. Good evening. I just would like to applaud the working committee for the advocacy work. I believe that the platform can allow for the articulation of the issues and for greater efforts at solving the myriad of problems we have. A few examples being absentee fathers, boys' performance in school, mental wellness. Just a few to mention. And I mean, I'm sure if we try or if we look, we might be able to measure the impact that International Women's Day has brought to many societies. And I think we can get an equal or better result from the International Men's Day and the awareness it can bring about when we look at policy and legislation and the social re-engineering of society. So I really want to applaud the committee for keeping this on the front burner. However, just one correction I noted. I hope, if I didn't get you correctly, I stand corrected. But if we look at the statistics, I think women may comprise about 49 point something % of the population. So I don't think it's exactly correct to refer to this gender as being in the minority. It's not a 90-10 or 80-20 situation.
No.
So I think one or two persons mentioned it there, and I just want to correct that. We're not in the minority.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I need to clarify myself, or probably I'm coming across as muddled this evening. So let's take a break. Probably I'll get my mind around the issues, and then we'll be right back. Stay with us.